Hello and welcome to Extreme Academy Live. This is where you come to advance your skills, advance your knowledge, and advance your future. Thanks for advancing with us. And welcome back if you joined us for our first Extreme Academy Live. And if this is your first, then welcome to the community of Extreme Academy. And this is not like any kind of training video on YouTube. With this, at the end of the course, you get to take an exam. And if you pass that exam, you get a certification from an industry leader as Extreme Networks. You can put that on your resume and you can prove to your current or future employee that you've got the skills and knowledge that'll make you a fantastic employee for that organization. Now in this course, we're learning all about wireless that we use every single day. It's an amazing technology and you're going to be learning about the science and the engineering that underpins that. So let's kick off with an amazing example of a robust and secure and highly scalable wireless network. We're going to show you a short video. So Claire, roll the video and welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show, where fans share deep connections to their favorite teams. This season, we're powering up that connection to a whole new level with Extreme Networks as the new official Wi-Fi solutions provider of Major League Baseball. A partnership designed to provide game-changing Wi-Fi capabilities and network analytics to ballparks across MLB. Engineered for passionate crowds. Connecting fans and clubs to a faster, more reliable, and secure network. Extreme Networks technology will upgrade more than half the ballparks with hundreds of access points and infrastructure strong enough to power nearly 2,500 games per year. So your next trip to the ballpark will be a whole new ball game when you're networking at cloud speed.
From all of us here at the Boston Red Sox, welcome to the show.
Welcome to the big leagues.
Welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show.
Welcome to the team.
Extreme Networks, the official Wi-Fi solutions provider of Major League Baseball. Play ball.
Now, as you're watching and learning throughout this course, you'll be able to engage with the Extreme team and collaborate with your co-students on the course. And you can do that through our Meeting Pulse app. So you'll see a QR code over my shoulder or a URL on the screen. You just scan that QR code with your phone, it'll take you through to the app. Just pop your name in, that'll take you straight in. You'll be able to ask questions. You'll be able to comment on somebody else's question. You could even try and answer somebody's question. If you know the answer and you think you can help somebody else on the course, you can go and answer a question in the app. We'll also run some polls in there during the class just for some fun, just to keep you engaged. If you're watching this on YouTube recorded, then just pop a comment in the comments down below. We'll be monitoring the comments and we'll be able to answer your question there. And of course, use the chat function in YouTube as well if you just want to do a shout out or just say hello. But if you've got a long question, it's a technical question, then use the Meeting Pulse app because that's where the Extreme team are. We've got some engineers behind the scene who are going to help you throughout the course and answer your questions. Now, it's time for me to introduce your instructor. If you were here for our first course, then you know him very well. It's Isaac. Isaac's back to take you through this amazing world of learning about wireless. So Isaac, are you out there? How are you doing? What have you been up to?
Hey, Rowan. Man, we're back again. This is fantastic. Course 2, Extreme Academy. Man, I've been going through rehearsals. I've been working on getting all of this content together to share. You know, wireless is this world of magic, you know, and we've got a whole lot of really interesting things lined up. There's some new elements that we've added into this. You're going to see me driving around Cambridge. I do recordings at different locations. So there's a whole lot of new pieces. We're going to have some guests coming in to share with us, really clever people, but the whole thing about this is really based on the new tagline that Extreme has, right? It's about removing complexity, and wireless can be really complex, and I've been busting my head thinking about how I can make all of this technology simple, how I can explain wireless in a really simple way so that everybody can understand. Now, just so you know, my dad was the first one to invent wireless technology, right? Let me explain before you panic. Let me explain. So, in South Africa was very, very late to get television. We only got television in 1976. And my dad didn't buy one in 1976. He waited. So it was a long time before we actually got television at home. And when my dad got this television, he used me as the wireless, right? I was the remote control. So, he'd want the TV on. He'd say, go switch on the TV. And, I was the one. So I'd go and switch it on, go and sit down. And then he'd say, oh, the volume is too soft. Go put it a little bit louder. And so I was his wireless, right? And I mean, sometimes I was even the antenna. I'd have to go stand outside on the roof and hold the antenna. I was the wireless antenna. That was me. So we call it remotes and things like that, but you use that word, this magical technology that you get, where you press a button and something happens in the other room around the world. It's fantastic. So this is a really wonderful course. I'm so looking forward to teach this course. I think it's going to help so many people, and fantastic, absolutely fantastic. I can't wait to get started. But before we do, why don't you, this is a question that I've been wanting to ask you for a while, and people as well have asked me, is Extreme Academy, right? We now in course 2 in Extreme Academy, but how did we get to course 2 or course 1? What's, can you give us like a brief history of how we got to Extreme Academy?
Yeah, of course, Isaac. I love that story, by the way, Isaac. I didn't know wireless was invented by your dad in South Africa, but it is a great time to give a little bit of history on Extreme Academy, because it's exactly a year ago that this all got going, and it started because of requests from our customers, from our university customers, and we were with our friends at Gannon University in Erie, Pennsylvania, who were opening up a new building, and they wanted to integrate training content from Extreme and train their students on networking. So we partnered up with Gannon and a number of others to get the Extreme Academy going, and that was just a year ago, Isaac, and it feels an age away, because in between that time and now, the world turned upside down with the pandemic, and the way we do things was completely changed, and we had to change as well. We had to be dynamic with Extreme Academy. So our university customers can still take the courseware from Extreme Academy, and they can still teach it to their students. But we made a decision probably about 6 months ago that we were going to dramatically open up Extreme Academy. We were going to broadcast the courses live and stream them into social media, into YouTube and other platforms, and make it available and free of charge. Really democratize learning and just make it available to anybody who wants it. And we started that, as you know, you're a key part of it, Isaac, in November last year. It's been hugely successful, and we intend to continue it. So this is course 2. We've got a lot more coming later in the year, and you can expect us to be on YouTube for the rest of the calendar year and beyond. So it's been a wild ride at Isaac, but it has been very rewarding, and it seems to be going down really well.
Absolutely. It's a fantastic thing. I'm a really big believer that no one should be left behind. No one should have lack of education. Premium education will always be a thing, but by making this course completely free and offering the certification free as well, I think that we leapfrog a lot of other people, and we just say to everybody who wants to learn, you want to learn, this is you want to advance, you want to grow in your skills and your future and all of that. What a place, what an opportunity, what a job Extreme Networks is doing through Academy. Fantastic.
So it's a special day, Isaac. It's the start of course 1, but had you noticed the date? It's April the 1st.
Yeah, well, how could you not notice? It's April the 1st. It was probably invented in the UK or something.
Yeah, well, funny you should say that, Isaac, because April Fool's Day was invented here in the UK, and it was invented very close to me in a town called Canterbury, and I've got some proof here, just for everybody. Back in the 14th century in England, April Fool's Day was first documented, or the first reference in folklore was in Canterbury Tales by Geoffrey Chaucer. I've got a copy of it here. There we go. Geoffrey Chaucer, of course, one of my top 10 Old English poets and authors. And his first reference was in the Nun's Priest Prologue and Tale, believe it or not. There we go. And that was the first fictional reference of April Fool's Day, and invented here in a town near me in Canterbury in the UK. It's a true story. It's a true story, Isaac.
Who knew?
Who knew?
Who knew? The things, I mean, we've invented everything, right?
We have. So Isaac, we're gonna get going now. I think everybody's had enough of us chatting. They want to learn something. But before they do, Isaac, before you start, why don't can you just confirm whether you've got anything lined up for April Fool's Day?
This is Academy. This is serious stuff now. We're gonna get into the meat of the thing. This April Fool's is now April Fool's. We've spoken about it. Now we get into the serious stuff.
Okay. All right, let's go for it then, Isaac. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much to everybody who has contacted me privately on LinkedIn, who has reshared our content, who has liked our content that we've posted on LinkedIn. Everyone, that you like, everything that you retweet or reshare is really important. It's more people, that here. My network is quite small. I only have like 1,000 people in my network or so, but some of you have so much more, and some of you don't use this tool LinkedIn at all. Some of you have such small followings. Come on, increase your networks. It's really important for you to do this if you want to advance your career, if you want to advance what you're doing within your future, right? So thank you. Like I said, thank you to everybody. It's fantastic to see all of these people, to see so many people succeed and pass the exam from course 1. That just makes me so happy. And so I really hope that you will continue following and come and enjoy us. So let's get into this. Let's get into the content. First of all, we don't hand out slides. It's like the most asked question. Please, can we have the slides? Nope, we don't hand out slides. These slides will only be provided to actual academies, institutions that teach this stuff. But even if you were one of those, we would say to you, please don't, please be environmentally responsible. So if you get slides like this or whatever, don't just go and print them out. Use them as a PDF, whatever. In the case of people watching on YouTube, you can go and do a screen grab if you want, but keep it digital rather than going to print it unnecessarily. I'm going to go over the agenda. So let me just say this. If you are a wireless guru, okay, if you know everything about wireless, this course is not going to offer you much. There's no incredible revelations here about wireless technology. There's none of that over here. But that doesn't mean that you should switch off. How about you help other people who might be on the YouTube window watching this content and asking questions? If you have a lot of knowledge, why not share the knowledge with other people, right? And help others. In wireless, the more people know, the better it is. People move from just putting in a wireless access point to actually understanding what to do. And so this grows the community. So these are the topics that I'm going to cover. Remember, this course was really designed to be taught over 2 days in an academy, and that's why you see it say day 1 agenda and day 2 agenda. It was designed for 2 days, but in Academy Live, we're breaking them up into 2-hour segments. And this doesn't necessarily mean that each one of these is 2 hours. It might be a lot less than that, or maybe a little bit more. It depends how I feel as I go through. But these are the topics that we're going to cover. This is not going to be 2 full days or 8 sessions about atoms, right? About photons, about radio waves. It's going to be broad. It's going to teach you about the technology, but it's also going to get you thinking about how would I implement this in the company I'm working for? If I were running my own business and I wanted to start installing wireless, how would I think about it? How would I do this? What would I need to get, across to my customer so that they bought from me or that they agreed to my proposal for them? And this is going to help you. So we're going to look at why wireless. It sounds obvious, but how it all works. So behind the scenes, when you connect, what is happening? And this is, where it starts to get really interesting. And this is where I think a lot of people will really start to engage technical people that want to know details. Standards and how devices should talk to each other. We mentioned this in course 1 with the IEEE and the different standards that there is. So we're going to go look at that because it's an important thing to know. Then we're going to look at design best practice, right? Where if you are designing a wireless network, now you know about how these things work. So if you were designing, how would you design? What would be the best practice? Would you put an access point right next to a microwave oven? Yeah, maybe not, right? These are the things that we will talk about in this session. And then as we go on, which would generally be a day 2, but for us, it's just different session. We'll talk about security. Now, again, this is not a section that's going to make you a master ninja in security. It's not about that. It's how do I think about security when I think about wireless networks? I know that it should be encrypted, and I know that I should have a good password and all of those. But is that all there is to wireless, or is there more that we should know about security? Installation and testing. Okay, so that's important. When you go and install, you need to test it, and where do you install? How do you install? These are all questions that we as Extreme Networks, we see when we have partners who go out and install. We see they have best practices, all of those things. So this is an attempt to grab some of those best practices to prevent you from crying, to prevent you from suffering pain, because if you don't know how to do it, it can bring you a lot of misery. So learn from best practices, from things that other people have learned before, and don't start crawling, start walking. Management architecture. Okay, so you've put in a wireless access network. You've put in, 10 points or 20 points or 1,000 access points. How do you manage that? That's always important, right? People's like, so what's management got to do with wireless? Everything. It's really important. How do you manage wireless? How do you check the logs? How do you know how much traffic you have on a wireless network? If you think about that video we saw of the MLB baseball stadiums, how do the people who run those stadiums, how do they know, how much traffic was? What were people watching or browsing or sending? How many social media? Those are all these types of things that are really form a holistic view about wireless. It's not just about photons and radio waves. It's about all of these other pieces. And so this is a well-rounded, structured course that will give you more than just, how does this radio wave work? It's going to really help you and build in your confidence. And then to infinity and beyond, the connection, enhanced methods of using Wi-Fi, beyond connectivity. So this is also really, really interesting. People think of Wi-Fi as, oh, that's the ability for me to send an Instagram post, a Facebook message, or whatever it is. But Wi-Fi offers other services like location services, right? We always think of GPS as location services, but it doesn't help much when you're indoor, does it? So Wi-Fi has the ability to do things like that. And when we get there, it's going to be fantastic. I'm going to try and do demos for you and show you actually how this whole thing works. So this is what we talk about, to infinity and beyond the normal connection. And then we'll kind of wrap it all up and talk about considerations when selecting the technology, right? So you've been looking for a wireless network, and you've got 10 vendors who've come to you and made a proposal. Hopefully between all of them there's one really smart guy who's selling the extreme solutions, and he has the skills, he has the knowledge, and he's going to come to you. He's going to put a proposal together, and you're going to look at that proposal and you're going to consider, why should I choose this rather than that? What is it about this solution that solution B or solution D doesn't offer? What is it about the extreme solution that is better than some of the others? Oh, these look the same. They talk on the same band. They do the same thing. But wow, I really like this XIQ solution. Their way. This is what we're going to be talking about. So it's a fantastic end-to-end course. There's tons of stuff here that you're going to find really interesting. So let's jump into it and talk about why wireless. Why wireless? We have to ask ourselves some questions, and I'll ask you these questions, and you can go into the chat and you can respond to these questions, and feel free. By the way, we have a number of engineers, extreme engineers, possibly some partner engineers. Right now, I don't know who is on there. And when you ask questions within the chat, they will help you and they will answer your questions. Now, remember, I don't know, I can't see right now how many hundreds or thousands of people are watching. So that chat could go absolutely crazy, but we'll try and get to every message. Remember, when we record a broadcast in YouTube, it syncs the message to the area that I'm explaining at the time. So if you've asked a question and the back team has missed the answer, then if you just go back and scroll, you will see that question come up, and hopefully they will pick up all of these. This is the first time we're doing this directly live on YouTube. We did it previously on Vimeo, so we're not too sure how crazy it's going to go today. Hopefully it's going to go good crazy. But these are the learning objectives. I'll read them as I always do when I do learning objectives. So we're going to talk about why wireless, the user experience, all right? The user, why do we use wireless? Why has it become so ubiquitous? Why has it become so used and almost like the default way of connecting networks together wherever we might work? Interesting question. What Wi-Fi means for you, right? What does Wi-Fi mean for you where you are right now, for your job, for what you do? Business outcomes, productivity, collaboration and governance, right? Productivity, collaboration and governance. These are long words, right? They're complicated words. But if you're going to work in an organization, in a corporation like Extreme Networks or so many other companies around the world, and you're going to work in IT, these terms are things that you're going to be hearing all the time. If you haven't entered the workforce yet, if you're still a student and you're thinking about going into work or looking for a job or using this course to help you get into a job, if you knew, well, let me tell you, when you get into a job, these terms, they will become part of your day today, right? Governance. People will want to know, well, what's the governance around IT? How do you do this? How do you govern this? How do you look at these things? What about collaboration? What about productivity? These are things that are very, very important for businesses, right? Now, I know that not everybody who's watching this is in business. Like I said, some of you might even be at school, but this is going to make you aware of the big picture, right? And if you can see the big picture rather than just focusing on one little area, it's going to help you and give more confidence when you talk to people, because it shows them that you understand. Use cases examined by sector and verticals. So we will talk about use cases. People say, what do you mean? Is it like a case that's not new? Like if I go in luggage, is that about like a use case? Is it used or new? No, it's not anything about use. That's not what it's about. use cases in this context, or in the context of business, is when people say, how do you plan to use wireless? What is your use case? And you might say something like, well, if we put access points inside a hospital, then we would be able to have our doctors and nurses and medical staff walk around anywhere on any floor at any time. And if they have a mobile device, an iPad or one of these devices, they will be able to have access to things like patient records, to stock levels, to all sorts of things wherever they are. At the moment, if Mary Jane is on the 3rd floor of the hospital, and someone asks her, Mary, how many of this particular medication do we have? If she doesn't have this type of wireless technology, she would have to say, I don't know, let me go check. Well, I need it now. Okay, so I need to now leave this patient, run downstairs to the 1st floor, go open the cupboard, go and count all of this, then come back again, and 20 minutes is gone of valuable time. So this is what we talk about when we talk about these use cases and these verticals where we could use this this type of stuff. Which sectors? Hospitality, education, entertainment, so many. And then we will look at a recap of what we did when we spoke about Wi-Fi in course 1. It wasn't an enormous amount of stuff. It was mostly to do with terminology and words and phrases. So that's what it was all about. And we will do a recap. Now, before I really get into this, let me just say that one of the things that we are introducing in course 2 is young people like me. We can sit in chairs all day, right? But older people, they can't necessarily do that. And so our sessions generally go for 40 to 50 minutes, depending on how excited I am. And we thought it would be a good idea to introduce little breaks. If you've got a fitness tracker or so, take like an Apple Watch. It asks you to get up, for 1 minute and walk around just to get that circulation going. And we're going to start introducing that at different points. I will say to you, okay, I'm going to do this, which means, okay, we're in for a break. And then it's not going to be that 10-minute break. It's just a break where you stand up, you stretch your arms, you put them above your head. You just stretch, give your muscles, stretch your legs, do something just for a minute and a half. Bam. So those of you who are tracking on fitness trackers, boom, you've done this, and it's good for our circulation, especially if you're young like me. Okay, so let's get into this content. Why we need networks, right? A lot of stuff that we talk about in networks, we need to relate it to real life. We need networks the same way, the same reason that we as humans need to communicate and do communicate with each other. Most of the world has been in lockdown, different stages of lockdown for a year because of a virus. And to a large extent, the typical type of communication that we've had has been reduced, and we've been forced to engage in this type online communication. And as much as this is a fantastic medium, I don't think there's anybody watching that doesn't prefer, face to face, being with somebody, being close, sitting opposite the table at a restaurant, enjoying a meal. Those things are very important for human communication, for our psychological communication, and for our psychological being, for the wellness of our souls, of our minds, right? We need to communicate. And we've been communicating for ages, be it, running, walking across a village, walking across, a landscape to go and hand a message to somebody, making fire signals, using flags, lighthouse. All of these forms of that you see over here, letters, a radio broadcast, all of these things have been have played such an important role in our history and in our human evolution, because they've helped us to grow. They've helped knowledge to spread. And so communication is networking. We use networks to communicate. Before we had the internet, before we had these networks, before we had telephones, we still communicated, but the reach of our communication was very limited. Now I'm sitting here broadcasting to you on from Cambridge on YouTube, and we have people from Chile to Russia to China to the USA, South Africa, Australia. We have people from all over the world. The reach, networks allow us to reach the entire world. It's important. They don't just allow us to reach and talk, right? Networks allow us to do so much more. Most of you will be familiar with most of these over here. Let's take the one right up at the top, education. Right now, I'm acting as an educator. I am teaching, and you are receiving this information, this education. Some of it is going to empower you to change your lives. Some of this is going to empower you to do incredible things. So it's important that we understand the power of networks in terms of education, online courses. Nowadays, universities, so many of them put content online, and they democratize this, all powered by education. Think about, Office 365. So many of us that work in corporations, we have a subscription to Office 365, and that is kind of the glue that helps us to communicate within teams, within groups at work, set up to do different things. These are communications that networks enable us. We wouldn't have this power like we have nowadays, and who can imagine what's going to be coming in the future? Electronic banking, networks have enabled us to almost, in fact, if I have to think about when last I walked into a bank, it was a really long time ago. I was like, for what? Why do we have to have banks? We can do everything we need online, right? Wow. Stock exchange, if you buy shares and you trade in shares, networks enable all of those things. Healthcare. Before you'd go to a doctor, he'd set up a machine, take an x-ray, you'd wait 2 hours, and then you'd have the x-ray, and the doctor would call you in, the following week to tell you what he saw. Nowadays, these machines are so powerful, they have computers built into them, they take an x-ray, and within seconds, this is all digitized, and you're getting all this information via the network. So networks are incredible. Smart buildings, smart cities. Security, digital securities, CCTV cameras all over the place, tracking, tracing, seeing what's going on, fighting crime. Networks are phenomenal, and they are all of this technology is enabled by networking. All of this brings us collaboration, the ability to collaborate with each other. It brings us productivity. That nurse doesn't need to spend 20 minutes just to get the stock level. She's now got it at her fingertips, and she can dedicate more time to helping patients and spending time with patients. And governance, a way to govern all of this, to see that the systems are not being abused, right? These are all of those things. So what is hi-fi? What is Wi-Fi? Well, I grew up, when I started my career in IT, we really, in South Africa especially, when I started, Wi-Fi didn't exist, right? It just didn't exist. We had it was the start of mobile phones, but certainly Wi-Fi, no, it came, a little while after I started. So that gives away kind of my age. But if you went to a company and you wanted to work, the concept of a laptop was existent, right? The concept of a laptop Claire, really? It's April Fool's thing. So the concept of this laptop was you had a laptop and you could then take your laptop anywhere in the company, right? At that stage, laptops were really expensive and only the elite had laptops. You know, your financial director, ooh, we need a laptop. And they had this laptop. Just to give you an idea, those laptops didn't even have wireless on them. They didn't even have wireless. I mean, today you can't buy a device without wireless. But back at that point, you didn't even have wireless at all. And so you had either a built-in Ethernet port, or you got a card. I think if they can just bring in Claire, that picture of the that PCMCIA card. Yeah. You see this on the screen here? This is what we call the PCMCIA card. And laptops had slots for these things, and you would plug them into the side of a laptop, and then you would take your Ethernet cable. So when people said, oh, laptops are portable, you can take them anywhere, what they really meant was you can take them to any office in the building, but you would then have to connect. There would be cables lying all over the the boardroom table, or neatly drilled into the table, or etc. And you would use network cables to plug into a switch that might be in that boardroom. And if you needed to go back to your office, you unplugged your cable, you got to your office, you had another cable there and you plugged in that. That's what we meant by portable. The device was portable, but the communication was physical. Yeah. I know some of you, this is like, what's he talking about? I don't even know what an Ethernet cable is. Yeah, but people like me, young people like me, we saw this. Wi-Fi. What did Wi-Fi change, right? Wi-Fi allowed you to have that laptop and to have access points distributed throughout your organization, throughout your office. And you could now just walk from one location to another location without plugging any cables, without re-signing on. You would sign on once, and then you could walk anywhere in that office, go into a boardroom, wherever, and it was magic. It was phenomenal. So some of you, this is like, no, you could, there was, that really happened. The access speeds were not great. The very first wireless, I think, was around 11 megabit per second or something to that effect. So it wasn't very fast, but wow, how things have developed. So what we're going to do now is let's take our very first 1.5 minute break. So I want you to write these down. If you've got some sort of mechanism to write, a pen or something like that, or you're typing in, a notes application, whatever, I want you to write these two things down. What does wireless mean to you? So if you were to think about it now, like, what does wireless mean to me? Like, if I didn't have it, what would I lose right now? Okay. The second question is consumer versus enterprise. If I was thinking about this from a consumer, what's a consumer? Well, it could somebody who consumes this technology. So you're at home, you have wireless at home, so you're a consumer of wireless. You go to an airport, you consume. So as a consumer, what do you think are the implications of what you need as a consumer, as opposed to what a company needs, an organization, a large organization, what they need from wireless? Think about those. Think about those things. Now, wireless technologies. We think sometimes wireless is just about, internet access, right? That's all it is, and it's about that Wi-Fi over here. But wireless encompasses a lot of things, like Isaac's dad and his wireless remote control. Like, Isaac, go change the volume. Oh man, I'm sure there must have been other people. It couldn't. My dad wasn't the only one to invent wireless. I'm sure many of your parents invented wireless at home as well before you got the remote control. But when we talk about wireless, what are we talking about? Are we talking about something specific just to do with a computer? No. When we talk about wireless, the term encompasses a lot of different technologies. It does encompass what we're going to be talking about: Wi-Fi LAN, WLAN, wireless local area network. So definitely that's the focus, and that's what it does. But think about cellular communication, right? Cellular communication. Mobile absolutely exploded in the world because it gave us the ability to be connected while mobile. Phenomenal. It's still amazing to me that you can get in a car and you can drive, and you're not allowed to talk in the UK, so not you, but your wife or your husband or your partner or your friend, significant other can sit next to you, and the car's going along at 80 miles an hour or whatever, and you can still have a perfectly legit conversation, perfectly crystal clear conversation with somebody on the other side of the world. That's just magic. But that's also wireless, right? It's different, slightly different technologies. They still rely on radio waves, but we know them as 3G, 4G, LTE is another term for that. 5G, everybody's talking about 5G. So that's another term, another way to talk about wireless, right? Think about your GPS. Every mobile phone today has a built-in GPS. You don't need to use a map book anymore. Some people still prefer it, but that is wireless technology. You have satellites up in space, a whole bunch of them floating around the atmosphere, and sending down wireless signals. These little signals that your little receiver on your phone is receiving, and is receiving every second or every half second, and based on that it can help you locate where exactly you are. Of course, when you say based on that, it uses triangulation, so it uses mathematics to work out very accurately where you are on planet Earth, and by doing that can help you to get anywhere in the world. That's a wireless technology, something that virtually all of us use nowadays. Bluetooth, named after a Viking. And Bluetooth is the same as, it's wireless technology, like that remote control, but with a kind of a limited range, about 10 meters. So wireless access can reach really far. It depends on a number of different things, but given the circumstances, about 10 meters. Bluetooth, short range. It's short range. It has specific purposes. You wouldn't use Bluetooth to go and download a Windows update, that's 2 or 3 gigabytes in size. You could probably do it, but it's not built for that. It has its specific purpose. And then this term we call Zigbee. It's just one of, there's many. Another one is Thread for IoT. So what is Zigbee? If you haven't heard about Zigbee, Zigbee is a wireless technology that is built for things like home automation. Okay, so the ability for a sensor in your bedroom to detect at 6 o'clock or 6:15 in the morning when you wake up, to detect that you have woken up and instruct the coffee machine to turn on and start percolating coffee, right? To determine that your blinds should be open. When they have this much light outside, then open up the blinds or automatically close the blinds. So Zigbee is this technology and thread for IoT. There's a number of them. They are wireless technology specifically designed for automation within home. So these are just some, probably covers a lot of area, but these are areas of wireless that fall under this umbrella when we talk about wireless technology. We are focused on wireless LAN, not on Bluetooth or any of the others. So in my home, I have one of these boxes. This is from British Telecom, and they are my ISP. So each one of you watching will have different ones, right? They might not look like this. It doesn't really matter. But when you think about a home network, you have to understand that for ISPs to really be successful, they have to make the process of you getting online and getting access to the internet very, very simple. When I started in South Africa being connected to the internet, oh my word. It took you weeks. You applied to the telco, and then they would need to send an engineer and test the line to make sure that you could get access. And if it wasn't, then they would decide if they upgrade your line or not. Then you had to find an ISP, and the ISP said, dude, you have to go and get your own modem, you have to buy your own switch, you have to go and do all of that once you've got all of that and all of that set up, then phone us and we'll create an account for you and send you the credentials. And then how do I set it up? Oh, you go to our BBS board and they'll have. It was so difficult to set up, right? All of this type of stuff. And if you think about this, which today, I suppose we could call that an access point. But for that thing to actually work, it needed to be much more than an access point, right? It needed to, the service provider needed to give you a gateway. So, you needed a gateway so that your network can get out onto the internet. You also need a firewall. Today, a lot of software has firewalls built into it, but it's always good to have a hardware firewall. So if you wanted to connect to the internet, you would need this gateway, you would need security, you would need a firewall, you would need a switch, right? It doesn't just, your internet signal doesn't just appear magically. There's a cable that runs under the ground and it comes into your house or into your building somewhere. So from there, it needs a switch, right? A switch, an Ethernet switch, so that it can connect to you and provide access to you. So you need that. If you want to move around your house, you then need an access point. So that switch needs to be connected to the access point, and the access point broadcasts that. So you needed to almost have 4 devices to be able to get onto the internet. This, right? This. Oh, then of course you might need extenders. So me, like I have a house with, with 2 floors. Well, guess what? Some of the locations in my house, they can't get internet access. So what do I need to do? I need to have an extender over there. And yeah, I need to manage it as well. Although once I've set it up, it kind of just works in the background, right? This device, this single device over here, it encompasses all of those things. So today, when I sign up with an ISP, they send me one of those devices, that BT device that you see there, and inside all of that, all those different devices are encapsulated inside it. There's a firewall, there's a switch, there's a Wi-Fi access point, there's a gateway. All of those things are inside there. And what has that enabled companies like ISPs to do? Well, it's allowed them to differentiate and make their service different. When you get a box and you plug it in and turn it on and it just works, you are likely to tell other people, oh man, this is fantastic. Get from these guys that just plug it in and it just works. So for home usage, the key was making it. The key was to make things very, very simple, right? Very, very simple to operate, and that's what we've seen. So, what are some of the principles to a smart approach to networking? We looked at this in course 1. So, if you haven't seen course 1, you're going to hear these for the first time, in this course. If you've seen them or heard them in course 1, okay, that's good. It's never a bad thing to reinforce the principles. If you are thinking about designing wireless networks, getting into networks, then these are some of those things, 5 things over here that you have to consider about wireless networks. Number 1, security. You have to ensure the integrity of personal and business data transferred over networks. That's really important. In your house, you might occasionally do internet banking on your wireless network. If your wireless network is not secured, if you have a default password, wireless password, or password, and you do an online shopping, you might think, oh, but nobody is stealing my stuff. How do you know? What makes you so special that you don't need to care about security? It starts at home. You got to be really, really diligent at home. But what about if you're a corporate? How critical is wireless security when you are when you are in a corporate situation, right? It's mega important, actually. When you are in a corporate, the integrity of your data, it could be your intellectual property that you're protecting, it could be your financial results. If someone is sitting outside, they're sniffing your network and getting all that information because you haven't been diligent and you haven't taken security seriously, you are going to be in trouble. And it's not because of us. We are telling you, when you design wireless networking, one of those 5 considerations, in fact, I would say it's very important, is what type of security. Think about security. It's fundamental. The next thing is about redundancy. In a home network, if you have one wireless access point and you lose connectivity for a minute or 2, yes, your Netflix is going to be interrupted. Yes, and that's a bad thing. But that's not earth-shatteringly bad. When your network comes up again, you can go in there and you can just watch, just say rewind and go back and play and watch. But for companies, it's very important. If your website goes down, if you're selling goods online and your website goes down, that's a problem. You can't just rewind. You're going to lose sales. You're going to lose money. And so when you design wireless networks, you have to think about redundancy. Do I just put one wireless point in the whole of my office? What if there's a power failure over there? What if that circuit goes down? What happens? Is it critical? Can I afford that? Maybe I should put redundancy. Not maybe. If you're a corporate, redundancy has to be one of the principles that you apply in your business when you're thinking about wireless networks. How critical is it that this wireless network operates all the time? And if there is a failure, do I have a plan B? Do I have a redundant system that can automatically adjust for that? Very important. What's the next 3? Flexibility. If you build a wireless network, one of the things that you need to always consider is flexibility. How do you build a network that has the potential to grow? It's no good building a network for 20 users and everything is designed around 20 users and now you have 100. It's like, well, we can't scale. It's impossible. We have to throw everything out and build again from scratch. That's not very smart. That's not going to get you promoted in a company if you're an IT person. So flexibility, how do I increase and grow my network? when you design it with the right principles in mind, this is how you go. Cost, right? Cost, the mullah, the ash, the dosh, the important stuff. This is the stuff that makes companies like us grow, and we need, right? We sell stuff, and in exchange you pay us dosh. And it's about cost. Everybody is always going to be asking, well, it's great that you're going to put up a wireless network, but believe me, no financial guy is ever going to say to you, how many extra people do you need to run this network? And you say to them, oh, look, I'm only putting in 10 access points, but I need another 4 people to manage it. Guess what's going to happen? It's like, not here and not ever. That's never going to happen, right? You can't you don't have unlimited funds. So a design principle, when you design a network, you got to think the cost of this network. What do I get for my buck? And then finally, manageability. How do you manage this? Manage is also about cost. In Extreme IQ, within Extreme Networks, we have a platform called XIQ, and you can manage a network with 1 user or 20,000 users, 20,000 access points from one single pane of glass. In fact, you can not only monitor access points, you can monitor switches, an entire network, switches, access points, the whole thing from one single pane of glass. So manageability is incredibly important when you design networks. These are the 5 principles. Please remember these. You might see them in the exam. Remember these principles. They are very, very important. Now, human emotion matters as well. And it's not something that we often consider when we're thinking about designing networks, or when we're even talking about wireless, right? How many courses do you hear where people talk about, empathy, having empathy with people? But recent months, a recent year, this last 12 months, 13 months, has brought an unprecedented number of crises to the human race all over the world, from COVID and all the implications of that, unemployment, businesses closing down, uncertainty about the world, travel, people losing jobs, all of those types of things. They place societies and people under enormous strain, and the user responses to how they access their data and applications, right? People get edgy. If you're trying to log in on a VPN and suddenly it's taking 2 minutes, people lose their marbles because of that, right? And it's important for us as IT people, for you guys who are running or will be running networks, to understand that these things are really important to people. And when they have these types of crises in their lives, that's something that might not have meant much previously, now means a lot to them. What are we saying with this? That the user experience, what users experience, what consumers experience, what people in corporate environments experience when they use wireless networks, it really matters. You will hear people say things like, I don't care what it takes to work or how it works. Just make it work. Just make it work. We need to be, as IT people, we need to be empathetic to those things. People might have been a lot more patient previously than what they are now because they are under so much stress. So our design goals must be about all those technical things. But we must also make it easy for people, We mustn't complicate life for them. Don't go around making passwords 20 digits and making sure that they changed every 2 days. That's not a good user experience for your people. Right. So those 3 words I used at the beginning, right? Productivity, engagement, and governance. These are important, and again, especially from a corporate point of view. So this triangle really is made up of these 3 concepts, right? You have something called easy, when access easy, access efficient, wireless easy, efficient, and then secure. Those are the three fundamentals, okay, that we have to get right. When access is easy and secure, what does that happen? Or when access is easy and efficient, then it drives in the business, it drives productivity, right? Because there's performance and there's flexibility. When it's easy and efficient, these are the things that that happen. When access is secure and efficient, what does your business gain? Your business gains governance. When access is secure and it's efficient, it gains governance, right? Manageability, visibility. Is nothing hidden. It's like, ooh, no, it gains visibility. You can see what's going on when it has those three. When you have access and security, right? When access is easy and secure, then the business enables collaboration, right? When it's easy and secure, there's collaboration. People collaborate because it's easy. Think about tools like Zoom. What was it about Zoom that just made it explode? There were so many programs that came before Zoom. I remember working in a company where you had to type in IP address, you had to phone, what's your ISDN number? And they give you a number and you had to type that down, and you had to put access codes, and you had to put 1,000 different things before you created connection. Along came Zoom, and it was like, press this button, click, boom, and you connect. I was like, wow, that was absolutely brilliant. So when you have this ease of use and security, the business, it gains collaboration. People can collaborate. Why? Because it's so easy. They don't have to spend 15 minutes, setting up a call. So business, collaboration, productivity, governance, these are the things that we are looking for. And when we're going to be doing a course that's going to be coming up, setting up for success in technology, and in there we're going to have a more business focused approach, and these things will be covered in that. So I'm going to call it break time right now. So we've been going for about 50 minutes, so we're going to have the break. It's 10 minutes of break time, and then they'll have some ads and some stuff playing during these 10 minutes. Please don't sit on that chair, right? Get up, go walk around, get yourself something to drink, have something, a snack, go stretch, because it's good for you. I'll see you back in about 10 minutes.
One of the trends we're seeing in the healthcare industry is a realization that patient care is very much tied into their overall experience inside of a hospital. Taking lessons learned from a sister vertical in the hospitality industry, it's become clear that providing a strong guest Wi-Fi experience is part of that mission-critical services being delivered to the patient inside of a hospital today. It's interesting because what started off as a nice-to-have feature, we're now being told is like oxygen. They can no longer live without it because of the expectations of a patient and their family coming in for an extended length of stay. Using everything from a smartphone for just FaceTime or Skype for video conferencing and communicating at home to passing the time while you're waiting, watching streaming video services from the providers and all of that. It's become mission critical from the patient standpoint as to what they're going to experience when they're inside of a hospital. Besides guest Wi-Fi services in a hospital, we're also seeing a strong demand inside the organizations to provide more education directly to the patients while they're here. So we're seeing it leverage the technology of moving away from just television services at the bedside, but being able to provide meal ordering services, education on your post-discharge care, instructions on how to take care of yourself with regards to your new conditions related to that care, and moving forward with how to better provide a more educated patient before they leave the hospital.
Okay, back from the break. We were dealing with this slide and now we're moving on. So let's ask, and we've been asking the question about wireless LAN. What do users really want? Because essentially they are the major stakeholder in this, right? Your staff, if you're running an IT team, your customers are the people who consume your services. So if you're running the IT, for example, for Extreme Networks, your customers are us, the people who use the services that you make available to us. And if you're a consumer out in, in your home, then you are the customer to the ISP. So what you want as a consumer is very important. Many years ago in South Africa, when I still lived there, when you got broadband internet services, it was via ADSL. And they gave you a service. It wasn't a great service. If you got 1 meg, it was a lot. Now, I know it's, that's ridiculous by today's standards, but we're talking about maybe 15 years ago. So, be patient there. But one of the things that was very frustrating was that you could get internet access, but they would limit you for how much data you could consume. So they would say something like, or the local telco would say something like, you can get 1 megabyte of download speed on your ADSL, but you can only use 1 gig a month of traffic. Okay, international traffic. The rest has to be all local, so unlimited local. It's like 15 years ago, what could you do, 15, 20 years ago? What could you do locally? What websites could you go to? Maybe banking or the local news site, but anything else that you wanted to do was all hosted. Majority of it was hosted outside the country. Certainly all the good stuff was all hosted outside the country. So, they restricted you. You had no choice. That was it. That's what you had. So if we were to ask, what does the user really want? At that time, what the user really wanted was no restrictions on the amount of data that I can consume. No restrictions at all. That's what the consumer wanted. What other things did they want? Well, they wanted a reliable service, because the service wasn't very reliable, to be honest with you. Other thing they wanted was they wanted faster download speeds. I remember going to Cape Town once, and I had to go to a farm to go do some work on this farm. And one of the jobs entailed upgrading Mac OS X. It was, we're talking, 8-9 years ago, something like that, updating OS X. And here in London, the company that I worked for had, like a really fast, internet connection. Maybe, I think it was 60 megabit per second or something like that. And I used to sit in the office and just do a click to do an update, go make myself a cup of tea or coffee, and come back and this 2 gig file had been downloaded already. You were already waiting for me. It was like, and that had become the norm. And I went down to Cape Town and I went to go do all this work. And one of the jobs was, like I said, update this machine. And in my innocence, I clicked the update and I kind of sat there, just thought, okay, well, this will take a couple of minutes. It must have been like 5 hours later when that update was finished downloading. It's like, oh my word, how do people work like this? The efficiency lost by doing something like this is just crazy. What if you have to do 10 machines? It's all that time is gone just, doing updates. So these were real issues. And so you can see, when we talk about what does a user really want, what does a stakeholder really want, you can see that this has evolved over time. It's not just about, nowadays in the UK, I think you struggle to pay for a service that limits you. It's unlimited data. And, mobile operators still charge you today for data, 10 gig, 20 gig, 30 gig. But you can see that the day is coming when you'll just pay a flat fee for unlimited data. It'll come. It just takes some time. So what do users really want? Well, they really want access, and they want access to the internet, right? And with that, what they mean is they want access to data. And that data could be information on a website, right? If you want to know something about extreme products, you want to get hold of that data, to go and read it, and that data is sitting on a web server hosted by us. So it could be all types of data, right? It might be, data regarding your medical records. It could be that, but data, essentially data. Then we're talking about apps. I'm sorry about that notification. I should have turned that out. It's too late now. Then we talk about access, right? About apps. So users ultimately want access to data, or want data, and the way that they generally access that data would be through apps. Now that apps, if you're in a desktop, is probably a browser, but not just. It could be a number of different things, but browser based, if you want to call it that. And that app also could be something that's sitting on your mobile device, a tablet, a phone, something like that, right? So we use apps as the mechanism to access that data. And on top of this, of course, we have management. If it's a company phone, then the company would be managing that device, or a company laptop. The company would require that laptop or that device that accesses the network has an antivirus, has a firewall that it's turned on, has all the protection bits and pieces, has a VPN, has all of those things. So if it's corporate, definitely, the management of that would be very, very important. And of course, in course one, we spoke about, the different types of networks, and we spoke about definition of what is core layer, what is the distribution layer, and what is the edge. So data today, think about your cloud data, your photographs, for example, the backup of your mobile phone. I have I'm an Apple guy, so my phone backs up every night to the cloud. It's just a transparent process. It backs it up. So if I take photos, it backs it up to the cloud. I have another backup on a Google Drive server. So if I open my Photos app, it backs that up as well to the drive and to the cloud, and it just backs it up somewhere, magically. Cloud, core component of a network, right? It's cloud. It's in the big data centers. And of course, on the other side, on the edge of the network, is me, right? On the edge with my mobile device, sitting right on the edge, being a mobile user. A mobile user on one side, the core on the other, the cloud, and the data is being accessed through apps, and there's this governance overall. And so you can see governance, analytics in the middle. There's the piece of analytics, like our product, like Extreme Cloud IQ, the analytics part where you can look at an overview of everything going on your network, with the switches, in the data center, core, distribution layer, all of those things, all the data that's coming off of those devices, the metadata that's coming off. We can analyze them, we can study them, you can go and check them out, save them, go back and see what happened a week ago or 2 weeks ago, add machine learning into that, add artificial intelligence, and you start to get to the point where the data in the core is analyzed and starts to help you to make decisions, to make better decisions, to be proactive rather than reactive. So what do users really want? We could say they want access to the data. That's what they want. But they do it through so many different mechanisms and apps, and they're going to use wireless and networks and all of these things. So when we talking about this course, and as this course progresses, this is kind of the big picture that we want you to understand. Yes, wireless is a technology. Yes, it is like magic. Yes. But see the big picture. It's not an isolated little bit of technology that sits here. It's part of a big ecosystem. And we use words to describe it: edge, core, distribution, wireless LAN, governance, efficiency. These are the terms that I hope to be able to make you familiar with, so that when you get into a conversation with somebody and talking about networking and wireless and stuff like this, you know what people are referring to. So wireless networks, I mean, deployments, these things have changed massively over the years, right? If you just look at these numbers over here, I think the B is an uppercase. It stands for billions. Billions. 17 billion devices connected to the network in 2020. Last year, 17 billion. They expect this year, 2021, that to grow by 10 billion. The numbers are, you know, I don't even know how many zeros there are, but they expect, the clever people, they expect that by the end of the year of 2021, this year, that there will be 27 billion devices connected to the network, to the internet. Remember, the internet is a network of networks, and these devices range completely. We're not talking about, you know, someone said to me the other day, yeah, how can you talk about, you know, 10 billion devices? There's no one has made 10 billion laptops. Yeah, of course not 10 billion. No one has made 10 billion laptops, but it's not just laptops that access the internet. It's laptops, it's servers, it's desktops, it's mobile phones, it's tablets, it's IoT sensors, it's medical equipment, it's security cameras, it's printers, it's Internet of Things, it is just everything. Everything is being built with the ability to connect to the internet. I mean, I went to a store, I think it was about a year, just over a year ago, I think, one of these electronic stores that sell all sorts of goods, including white goods like fridges and stuff. And it was like, I just sat there and looked at this refrigerator. We call it a refrigerator. And you knocked on the refrigerator and it lit up. It was like, wow, how cool. It was cool, useful, I don't know. But it had a barcode scan on it, a QR code scanner. So when you threw something away, when you ran out of milk, you just kind of scanned it, and then it knew, oh, okay, he's finished with that. I need to make a grocery list and just add. It's like, that is an IoT device. That thing. My apologies, I couldn't hear. That thing talks to the internet. It sends information, it updates, and somehow it will produce a list somewhere that will tell you you need to go and buy milk or whatever else it is. So we are seeing this phenomenal growth, and a lot of this growth is in wireless networks. These IoT sensors, they don't have cables running into them. The televisions you buy today, they don't have I mean, they might have, Ethernet cables that you can plug into them, but many of them don't even have that anymore. They just have wireless. They're like a wireless access point, and they connect to your wireless network at home wirelessly, and you can, watch Netflix directly on these because they just pull that information down wirelessly. So over the next few years, we're going to see an absolute explosion. If you think 10 billion devices is a lot, you just wait and see as more and more of these medical devices come online. Today, we use things like an Apple Watch, for example, and or a Fitbit to track your health. But those things are going to become ubiquitous. You're going to see them all over the place. And today, they might be on a watch, but tomorrow, who knows? They could be integrated into your spectacles. They could be integrated into a ring that you wear on your finger. And the numbers will just absolutely mushroom and grow. And all of these devices are connecting, or a large majority of these devices are connecting to the internet wirelessly. In 2021, they estimate, look at this number, 63% of internet access, right, will be done using wireless devices as the primary way to connect. 63% of 27 billion. I don't know, that's just a very big number. IoT devices growing at, exponentially, doubling, each year, and possibly more than that as these things just go, and increase and increase. Can you imagine, when we start having autonomous cars driving the roads? Can you imagine how technology is going to develop, how roads are going to have to change, gonna impregnate roads with sensors, millions of sensors on roads, so that cars can talk to sensors, so that sensors can talk to cars, so that you could know safe traveling distance, stopping distance, all of those things from those sensors on the road. Rather than one sensor every 5 miles, you could have them every half a meter. So you can see the numbers, the types of things, and all of those things as well, of course, introduce the concept of security, right? Growing threats. When people write code for these things, it is really important that coders and companies that make these sensors, that they start to think about security as well. Because remember, you're only ever as strong as your weakest link. You're only ever as strong as your weakest link. So it is estimated that about 80% of businesses have been victims of malicious attacks. I don't know how they come to that number, right? 80% sounds very, very high for me, but you can see they have a source over there, Visual Networking Index 2019. It sounds a bit higher to me, but chances are, if you haven't suffered a malicious attack, chances are probably 80% in the future that you will. So when you think about networks, especially wireless networks, right? It's a little bit more difficult when you're talking about wireless, providing wireless security to wireless networks, because they're not coming in through the cable that you can see. If you see a cable, you can unplug it, you can ask a question, why is that cable over here? But when it comes to wireless, how do you know? It's wireless, it's invisible, it's a signal, it's floating in the air somewhere. So when you design these wireless networks, you have to keep out the bad and keep in the good, right? And you do that with infrastructure integrity, with the firewalls, with the design of your network, with the way you set up your access points, deep network security. So security is not just on the edge. You don't just put firewalls on the edge and then leave your core open, leave anybody open to go into your data centers. You have to think about security end to end, right? You have to think about IoT devices. You have to think about all these things. So as we develop this course, you will see me bringing up the importance of these things at different times, and we will be more specific. So the benefits that customers get, well, if you do it properly and you design a wireless LAN properly, you maximize productivity, right? And the IoT infrastructure helps you rather than hinders you. Cost savings, again, optimized, right? You enhance business agility. If business needs to suddenly go in a different direction, you can do it. Agile, because you've designed the network with that mentality, that it needs to be able to be agile and grow and scale on demand when it needs, how it needs, etc. And obviously security and things, has to be part of all of that. But all of these benefits, if you have the security, if you have the agility, if you have this optimization, if you have all of these things, then you have that governance, you have that productivity that companies crave and need and pay engineers good money for. So that's how I want you to think, and how we want you to think about networks. Now, to finish this section, we'll just quickly talk about, and then we'll have our break, we'll talk about these 4 verticals. we could call them use cases, but not so much. A vertical in this instance is talking about a vertical is about a particular segment of the market. So Extreme Networks makes networking equipment, and this networking equipment is used by massive amounts of customers. But there are certain verticals where we really focus on, and one of them is buildings, right? Buildings, wireless networks within buildings. So not only could they control or give access to things like internet access, for example, but heating and air conditioning controlled wirelessly. Security, lighting. Have you been to a boardroom nowadays where you press a button and wirelessly, or use an app like an iPhone or whatever running on your mobile device, Android, and you can control the blinds, you can control how dark the windows get? Those things are all controlled by IoT, by wireless networks, right? Parking control, even parking control. Nowadays you can drive into a parking bay and they still have lights, green lights and red lights. If you go to Heathrow, you see this at different airports, and you just look for the green and it can take you there. But why not go a step further? Why not have little sensors that as you go into a parking garage, your little app connects to the sensors and tell you, drive down here, drive there, drive across there, and there's a parking bay right in front of you. And that could be already reserved for you. And if anybody else tries to, it beeps, these are the technologies that are available. Digital visitor management. We see this a lot in hotels, for example. You get to a hotel and there's always somebody gives you a little, write down the wireless password on a piece of paper or something like that. But I've been to some hotels like in Singapore, and it's all electronic, and you just scan a QR code and all that information is given to you. So when you have those types of experiences, you take your mobile phone, you get to your room, there's no more key, there's no more of those cards that you insert. I mean, I don't know if you've ever been to a hotel where they give you these access cards, and you need to use the loo, right? So you go up to the 15th floor, you put it in, it doesn't work. You put it in, it doesn't work. You have to go all the way down again. Please reactivate my card. Go all the way up. Nowadays, you can just get an app, you get to your room, you scan it on the QR code or RFID, you just touch it close to the lock of the hotel room door, boom, and it opens and you go in. All enabled through wireless. Fantastic. Venues. What about venues? Extreme Networks does a lot of work with stadiums. We've just got the contract for MLB. We do the wireless, like you saw in that video in the beginning of this episode. You saw that course, and you saw in that video ML stadiums providing internet access to fans at MLB or the Super Bowl. It's not just about providing internet access nowadays. This particular Super Bowl, every transaction at the Super Bowl was cashless, so you couldn't give anybody cash money. It's just just touch it here, touch Apple Pay and all these other systems, boom, and you've paid for your drinks, or you've paid for your hot dogs, or whatever it is. So these experiences are experiences that people enjoy, that users like you and me, when we go to stadiums, we enjoy. We love being able to sit at a stadium, watch a game, take photos, take video, put them on our Instagram feeds. These are things that when you do right, wireless makes it a total joy. What about health? Health, people just think about hospitals, but a lot of people could be monitored at home, using sensors around their wrist, or using even something like an Apple Watch that can detect if you've fallen, or if you have high blood pressure, or all of these types of things. So healthcare, wireless enables fantastic applications within healthcare. And this is another area where Extreme is so strong. Extreme Networks is so strong, is in the healthcare area. And then retail. And these are not the only verticals. These are others. It's just, I can't talk about 400 different verticals that we have, or all of the verticals that we have. But retail, smart shopping lists. When you arrive at a supermarket, it knows that you're there, and it brings up a shopping list and it says, oh, I know this information, all enabled wirelessly. Do you want to buy all of these products again? Just tick whatever you want and we'll tell you which aisle to go and how to shop. Fantastic, right? And these things enable inventory lists. You know, my dad used to have a store before we had computers, and it was always difficult to find out what stock levels you had. It was like, just like I used to be the remote controller, also used to be the remote stock counter. You're like, clink, Isaac, go count. It's like, okay, you got so many tins of fish and so many tins of bully beef or spam or whatever it was. You know, nowadays, you know, you scan at the bar at the till point, and they already know exactly how much they have, when they have to reorder. Wirelessly, it happens like magic. So I hope that's kind of wrapped. We spoke about a lot of things and wrapped a lot of things, in this particular module. There's a lot of things to think about. There's a lot of things to consider. We haven't yet started to get into the radio. That's coming in the next session. That's also really interesting. The objective for this was to put you in that mood, in that headspace where you start to understand that wireless is not just about, you know, having access to the internet, that there's a big picture over here. And for you to grow in your career, for you to advance in your job, for you to understand, to grow, you need to learn this terminology. You need to learn these phrases, what these things mean in corporate environments. These things, knowing this is going to help you. Before I get into here, I saw that during the break, the 10-minute break, I was looking at the chat, and somebody asked an interesting question about something that I had mentioned before. And that was, I mentioned somewhere we were talking, I used the phrase, a single pane of glass. When you manage an entire infrastructure, you can do it through a single pane of glass. And someone asked, what is a single pane of glass? That's a really good question. And I'm sorry, sometimes we assume, just because we work for Extreme, we assume that everybody knows what it is. So you might have seen images, photographs of IT people. Generally, it's in the Netflix movies, and there's always a hacker somewhere or somebody that's an absolute whiz, and they have 4, 5, 6 screens in front of them, all looking at different things. That's movies, right? In the real world, it's not always like that. But one of the holy grails of networking is or of IT people is to have one system that can monitor an entire infrastructure. Again, if you're a home user, you might think, what's the big deal? Why are people so concerned about managing? And that could be, it could be when you work in corporate, you spend a lot of time managing, and a lot of IT people cost a lot of money. And if you have these expensive people doing trivial jobs, changing printer cartridge, it's kind of a waste of resources, right? So you want to allocate the right resources to do the right job. That's really what you're looking to do. And so when you have a tool that allows you to monitor an entire network of 100, 200, 500, 1,000 access points, just by logging in once to one application running in a browser, and you can monitor your switches, you can monitor your access points, you can monitor the traffic, you can monitor performance, you can monitor all of those things from one single application, from one tool. We call that a single pane of glass, okay? It's a crazy term, right? It's not really glass, but it's kind of the concept that we just have one screen, one screen, one piece of glass. And from there, we can monitor all of these things that run within a network. And it's not just a network. You could have a single pane of glass to run a financial application, just one, and you could run a whole entire system just from one single login. That's what we mean when we talk about this. Now, I really have something to share with you that's so exciting. And Extreme Academy, this is only course 2. And because of the amount of buzz that's been that we've generated, we've been allowed to make an announcement that's so exciting. Now, as you know, most of the world speaks English, right? And when people design access points, wireless access points, generally speaking, a lot of the design work is done, in the US, in English-speaking countries. And so for years and years and years, we've designed access points that are brilliant at translating the, VoIP calls and all of these things called using the English language. They've just been optimized because that's what we test on, that's what we play with, that's what we design with. But the world doesn't just speak English, right? There are many languages in the world. Se eu falar português, vocês podem entender que é uma língua bem diferente do inglês. En as ek Afrikaans praat, dan kan jy hoor dat dit baie anders is as Engels, né? And so if you talk different language, different phrase, if you say the same phrase in different languages, if you were to plot that on an oscilloscope, you can see that the sine wave, that the waves actually change. And I'm going to show you within a few seconds some phrases that I recorded in English and Portuguese and Afrikaans, and you're going to see the patterns on there. Take a look. Have a look at this. English version. Speaking unconstitutionally. Portuguese version. Falando inconstitucionalissimamente. Afrikaans version. Ongrondwettelijk praat. You see? So you can clearly see the difference in that. The problem is, for years and years, we've just optimized for English, for the English language. And then we had an idea at Extreme, and that was, I wonder if we could improve the efficiency, of our access points, of the radio waves, by listening to language and then optimizing, using our machine learning and artificial intelligence found in Extreme Cloud IQ, if we could optimize that, and could we improve the quality of our Zoom calls, for example, of our voice calls, on Skype calls, etc., by optimizing. So if we knew that this access point is going to be used, for example, in Portugal, where most of the office people will be speaking in Portuguese and having voice calls in Portuguese, could we go in and actually optimize for that? And the answer is, and I'm so happy to be able to announce this today, especially at Extreme, is we now have done exactly that. And if you now go into Extreme Cloud IQ, if you have some of our access points, and you go into this, if you click on an access point and you go into the settings, one of the new settings that you will see now with this drop down over here is called radio optimized for language, right? Radio optimized for language. So if you buy an access point in Portugal from Extreme Networks and you're using Extreme Cloud IQ, watch this. You can now go here, here, here. You click on this drop down and you choose Portuguese and you say apply, and immediately the algorithm of that radio wave is optimized for the Portuguese language. We've got about 6 languages that we've done so far, and I mean, French is one of them. We've seen an improvement in performance of about 300% with French-based access points just by using this feature. Absolutely phenomenal. So thank you for allowing us to do this. Thank you, boss, for allowing us to do this this announcement. Absolutely fantastic technology. Right, we are coming up to quit time. So thank you so much for being with us, for staying with us for the duration of this. I'm not going to have homework at this point in time. We will start from next week. We'll start doing homework because we're going to start doing things like radio waves. It's going to be so exciting. I've gone around Cambridge. I've gone to film different locations with some ideas. And from next week, I'm going to have some really incredible and exciting information. So I hope this has been good for you. I hope that you've learned, and have a great week. I'll see you back here Thursday, same time, same place. Ciao for now.